Good morning. Thanks, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us. This is Harriet Kamek with Down to Earth. And today we have an interesting subject that we're going to talk about. And we're going to talk about violent crime. But and talking about violent crime, of course, there was a terror attack in Paris this morning. It is now reporting, let me quote this news source. It is according to NBC News, a Paris policeman kills four officers, injures one other in a knife attack at police headquarters. So the policeman killed his fellow officers, talking about violent crime, putting it into perspective, right? But today we're going to focus on violent crime in the city of Detroit. And I'm going to quote what I read on the Detroit News. This is not Harriet. I didn't make this up, right? This is what the Detroit News is reporting, right? And I want to talk about it within the perspective of just last week. I, like everybody else, was stunned to read that a woman was shot in Detroit and her body was left in the street. Now, for those of us in Southeast Michigan, it's almost as if we are desensitized when we hear these things. It's almost as if we're like, oh my God, can this truly, truly be happening? We've gotten so used to it that I'm afraid the sensitivity and the outrage and the alarm that should be evoked when we read these things is not happening anymore because we've gotten so used to it. We've gotten so used to reading stories of people being shot, babies being shot. One guy killed a 3-year-old child driving on a freeway. People just randomly shooting people and shooting at people. And women in particular, women and children and seniors. So the three most vulnerable population groups, women, children, and seniors, in that order, are the people who are most likely to be attacked and least likely to receive some sort of remedy from their attack. You do know that, right? So, according to statistics show that the people most likely to be harmed by violence and violent crimes are people of color, particularly women and children and seniors. And they're the least likely to receive any kind of remedy from the state or the federal government or the county government. Now, this is not something that is new. In fact, just recently we watched the Amber Geiger trial from Dallas and saw where a female white police officer thought she had law and order on her side, walked into someone's apartment and killed him and shot him dead. And then her excuse was she went to the wrong apartment. Happens that they're both on different floors. So I don't know how you get off on a different floor if you live in the same building. I can imagine if you had just moved there, you would forget which floor you're on. But if you live in the same building, you're not going to forget which floor your apartment is on unless you're drunk or high. And we watched as the society expects the parent of that child to forgive her. Why is the burden being placed on the victim's family to forgive the perpetrator? She's getting 10 years in jail, 10 years only. The young man is still dead. 10 years from now, when she emerges from jail and she gets a chance to live her life out, that young man is still dead. So, how is a society expecting that a burden of forgiveness? Oh, she didn't really mean it to happen. Yes, she did. Every time you take out a gun to shoot someone, you meant for it to happen. Okay? So there is no such thing as, oh, well, she didn't really mean it to happen. And so we should forgive. No, forgiveness does not mean that the pain goes away. Forgiveness just means you choose to release the emotion you have towards the person so you can heal, so it can help you heal. But forgiveness doesn't mean you should not suffer the consequences of your actions. And so as we continue our focus, and for years now I've been talking about ending violence against women and girls, the more I talk about it is the more that it happens. It's almost as if it's anybody listening. Is the Detroit Police Department listening? Is the chief of police listening? I just want to know. I know they hear me. I know the state police listen. I know they're hearing me. And I am asking this question. Can we get these violent people off the streets? If I need the judges and the prosecutors to understand that when someone comes before you and they have a history of committing violent crime, that's not someone you should give a slap on the wrist and tell them, oh, just go sit still for 5 years and then you can come back out and kill people again. That should not work. So for all the people who are talking about we need to reform this and reform that, and we need to forgive people's crimes because they already did the time, and if they have not been rehabilitated and they come back to the society, guess what? They're going to kill over and over again. Do you see what I'm saying? So where is the genesis of this violent crime in Detroit? What is causing it? Well, we know a couple of things. Just by looking at it, we can tell right away, right? We can tell that crime of opportunity, people are killing people whom they know. We can also tell that economics is a major problem, where there is no economic infrastructure, where people feel as if they have no power, where people feel as if they can't get out of the rut that they're in. They're most likely to commit violent crime. And the opportunity is that they're going to commit it on themselves. So they have an argument with someone. They know that they are not going to, everything that is wrong with them, they're going to project it onto this person. They're frustrated, they're angry, they're going to carry out their actions. But that's not the only thing. There's drugs. Well, where does the drugs come from? Well, they have to buy the drugs from somewhere. So who are the drug suppliers? And who really are the financiers of drugs? And that's an age-old question. Remember, they had a war on drugs. Reagan started a war on drugs. The country spent billions and billions of dollars with a war on drugs to no avail. We ended up with an opioid crisis just the same. So where is the remedy? What is going to stop this violence? We're going to have to look at the penal system. And we're going to have to make sure people do go to jail and serve their time, regardless of how their family members feel. Their family members are like, oh, he's actually a good person. Honey, he reacted violently. The young woman who was shot on Santa Rosa Drive was killed by an ex-boyfriend, right? Someone she was romantically involved with. He shot her as she came out of her car. He put 2 shots in her body. She fell while her 1-year-old child is sitting in the house, hearing the gunshots that took her mother's life. That's not something that anybody should ever walk out of jail or walk out of a courtroom with 10 years on. That's something someone needs to sit down for the rest of their lives and think about what they have done and pay for it. Let me ask you this. If you were to hear that I got shot and I was killed, how would you feel? You would think it's unjust. You would think someone needs to be paid. You would probably be worked up about it, right? So why should the person who killed me get away with it? What should my family do? Because they would have lost me forever, right? So I can never come back because death is final. So that person walk away, and my family should say, oh, I forgive them. Forgive them. What is forgiving going to do at that point? Is it going to bring my life back? No. Is it going to put breath back into my body? Is it going to reverse the series of events? So we need to do something about the crime in Detroit. It's time out for all these interest groups. The crime is being perpetuated by gangs. It's gang warfare. I read a story on the Detroit News some months ago now, about the different gangs that are operating in Detroit. Why is the mayor and the police chief not doing anything about it? Why? What's stopping that? Why is the police not driving around and rooting out these people, knowing that they're in there? That's probable cause to enter their house. You know they're in that house over yonder. You know they're in some trap house somewhere. You know that that house is abandoned more than likely. Why are the police not policing enough? Because if the police, guess what will happen? Violent crime is going to stop because nobody really wants to go to jail. And we all know that when the police show up, they shoot first and ask questions later. So nobody wants to be caught up in the crossfire of the police trying to figure out, are you a nice guy or you are not? They don't have time to ask that question, right? So why are the police not policing? Why are the police sitting in the precincts and they're not out there? There are enough men in boots. We can put enough boots on the ground to go and attack and root these violent criminals and rid them out of the society. And something has got to stop. Here's some numbers that I want to read to you today. 48205 is the most violent zip code in Detroit. It's so bad that it is called 4820 die, because you inevitably don't live past 28 in that zip code. 48205. In fact, if you are caught in that zip code with a gun, you get immediate life. You get 15 to life if you are caught with a gun just driving. If you are caught committing a crime, in the commission of a crime, well, you're going to get life. That's how violent that zip code is. It's littered. This is where the city comes in. It's littered with abandoned homes. It's littered with overgrowth. So it's a haven for criminal activity. Let's face it, there will always be some criminals lurking around somewhere in any society. But if you don't do the job of policing, then there won't be. Do you see what the president did at the border? Right? They say people were coming over the border, jumping over whatever, crossing rivers and so on. He started policing it. You see anything else happen? That's what policing is. We don't like it, but it's effective. That's what policing is. The job of the police is to keep the public safe. The public are not safe. I don't feel safe. And no woman in Detroit feels safe. So I'm about to ask the police. They can say whatever they want to say. As much as I support the police in their efforts, you're still not doing enough, because there is no way that violent guns should not be so readily available. And I believe that you know where the guns are. Right? Right? So let me ask this question one more time. What is the police going to do about violent crime in the city of Detroit? Go get the criminals and get them out of there. Why do women, children, and seniors still have to feel unsafe in homes that they bought, in homes that they're paying for? And the mayor is still going to and from work. Hello. The mayor is still going to and from around the city like nothing. That's what I want to know. So I'm not even focusing on what happens on the south side of Chicago. I'm not going to go there. Michigan is called the murder mitten. According to the FBI, Detroit is the nation's most violent city. We even surpassed Chirac. You know what they call Chicago? Chirac. Because you remember when the Iraq War was on? And so Chicago, Chirac is part Chicago and Iraq. Detroit is more, according to the FBI, is the most violent city in the country. And we got a police chief who is black. And we got a mayor who says he's going to clean it up. But why are the criminals still running the shots? Why are business people in Detroit can't operate their businesses? I feel every time I drive past a Detroit gas station, I feel sorry for the people there. They can go to and from and operate their business in peace. Their insurance rates are through the roof. I was in a seminar some time ago where Detroit business operators, people who operate convenience stores and gas stations, one guy said his insurance rates were astronomical because of the violent crime in the city and the potential for him and his staff to be attacked, to be robbed or killed. Something is wrong. There is a disconnect. The police have the guns. Yeah, the criminals have the guns. No doubt about it. They're running around with AR-15 and all kind of guns and what's the one? The handgun thing. The handgun. Y'all know what that is. I don't even know. The Glock? Something like that? 357 Magnums? They're running around with guns like that. So where is the police? If the police want more guns, if the police want more action, go to the state police. They will get you the money to get the guns. But get them out of here. I don't care what they look like. I don't care if they look like me. They are going to kill me and people who look like me and women. Right? And I don't feel sorry for anybody, not when women are being shot and killed. And young men, there are no young men left. They're all either in jail or in the grave. The funeral homes are making a killing, burying young men every week. Like you just drive around any Detroit funeral home and you can, man, they're so busy they don't even have time to switch it out. It's like they're just dying to get in. They're just coming in, coming in, coming in. Right? So let me give you some facts. These are the facts. We talked about 48205. In 2018, according to the Detroit police, in 2018, there were 13,478 violent crimes in the city of Detroit alone. This is not statewide. This is not the entire state of Michigan. This is Detroit, right? According to the police, it was down 2% from 2017. Murders in Detroit in 2017, dying to get it. Murders in Detroit in 2017 were 261. In 2018, were 261. I went to the state police's website some time ago to pull some data. Believe me, I left it. I literally X'd out of the page. I couldn't read it anymore. Because for every statistic reference there, that is connected to a person, that's connected to a family. There is a mother, a father, a son, a brother, a child, a friend, a family member who is grieving the loss of someone. And the voices of the dead and the voices of the family members who have been traumatized as a result of this rampant violence cannot be silenced. And the police are not doing enough. Why are women being killed in the streets? Police, you know who these violent criminals are. You know who they are. Go get them. We, the citizens, want you to get them. I don't care if they're your nephew, your uncle, your brother, get them off the streets. Listen to me very carefully. Economics aside, everybody has a choice. There is a choice. The choice is not crime. We all have been challenged. We all have faced challenges. Yes, there is implicit bias like you wouldn't believe. Yes, there's an entrenched system of economic oppression. It exists. It's not invisible. It is real. People experience it every day. That does not give anybody the license to go pick up a gun and attack a woman who is buying gas at the gas station, or to attack the gas station worker or gas station owner who is performing legitimate business. You want what they have? Go work for it. If you have to start at McDonald's at $7 an hour, well then, go get it. I'm sorry, I've had this thing in my throat for some time. But do you see what I mean? The police need to do the job of policing. And I'm afraid that it's not getting done. I'm afraid that because if it were getting done, guess what? You know it, the criminals would be what? They would be afraid of the police. They see a police car coming, they'd be like, no, I'm not touching it because I don't want to deal with the police today. That's what needs to happen. The police need to police. Get these violent criminals off the street, off every neighborhood street in Detroit, every neighborhood street. Police cars are, where do they drive? Like, hello? Get them off the streets. Just go and circle in the neighborhoods. Just hover. Bring that drone thing that you all have. Hover. Michigan State Police, go drive down the city. Michigan State Police was posting up until a few weeks ago. They posted where they were just doing random checks on city streets in, like in early morning hours, like 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, times when the rest of us would be asleep. The state police were out there. They caught violent criminals, people who have a history of violence, who already have a rap sheet with guns. And I'm like, if the state police is doing it, where are my police officers? Where are the Detroit police? Why aren't they out there driving around and getting these violent criminals off the street? They're violent people. They're killing people. They're shooting at people. They think the police are a joke because the police are not going to show up. Just recently, I read a story that was quite alarming about a young man who was shot and killed. And the neighbor says that two people in red hoodies. And I'm like, Well, isn't that telling us something if they are they identifying with a particular group? So I reached out to someone I know and I asked, what the heck is going on? And he said, gangs, baby, gangs. The gangs have taken over. We're just gonna let this neighborhood streets, Mr. Mayor, what you doing? Mr. Mayor, when is the violence gonna stop? Arm the police to do the job and then hold them accountable. So don't let the police come and say, well, I don't have enough boots on the ground or I don't have enough. You know where I'm coming from. Come on, y'all. Help me out a little bit here. So, Mr. Mayor, give the police the tools they need to go do it and then hold them accountable to it. So they can't say, well, I didn't give you enough money to hire more people to put more boots on the ground, or I didn't give you enough resources. I didn't give you enough computers or enough technology for you to go find these criminals. These criminals are out here, they're scamming, they're stealing people's credit cards, they're taking people's, you can't even walk around. They scan your credit card, you go to the gas station. How many times in a week are we going to hear of people going to the gas station and they're shooting people as you come out of the gas station? It's almost like every gas station is a sitting duck. They know you have money because you've come to do what? Buy gas. So they're literally sitting and waiting. Your green light foolishness, Detroit police, is not working because the criminals are avoiding it because you're not catching them. Mr. Mayor, arm the police to go and do what they need to do to get these criminals off the street. I'm not standing by no darn criminal. They don't respect me. They don't respect the police chief. They don't respect the mayor. You think they're gonna respect anybody else? And we're women. They're all in jail. Let them go sit down in jail and figure out and think about that. That's where they ought to be. Not out here killing innocent people off. As you drive around the city, isn't it alarming? Most people you see driving around the city are women. It's women who are going to work. Where did I go this week? And they were delivering something, and it was women delivery drivers. Kind of struck me. It just kind of stood out in my mind there. And I'm like, they're mostly women. Women are taking children to school. Women are getting up in the mornings, dropping the kids off, then going to work, then they pick up the kids and go home, go shopping, and do everything. It's all women. Where are the men in jail or committing crime? And the propensity they have is, instead of trying to figure out, well, I know I have a record, but I need to get a job anyhow. Why don't they go to the gas station owner and say, hire me, man? Instead of setting up to shoot the gas station owner or the gas station worker or the people coming out to buy gas. It is inconceivable. The associative trauma the rest of us have from watching this violent activity played out over and over again. And frankly, I think the politicians are a joke. The Detroit City Council members, what are they doing? They're not calling all the police. Maybe they're afraid to. Maybe they're afraid the police won't protect them. I don't know what it is. I hope the police are protecting all the citizens. I would hope so. I certainly would hope so, right? But what are they doing? Are the politicians, what are you all doing? Getting ready for a social season? The politicians are not calling out the police. They're not saying the police need to do more to protect the citizens. They're not doing that. They're sitting there like a sitting duck themselves, or maybe it's not their concern. They're like, you know what? The cousins are always going to shoot one another. It's not my concern. Apathy. That's how the police probably feel. They're criminals anyway. They're going to do it anyway. What should I care? Then you shouldn't be a police officer because your job is to protect and serve. And part of your job when you signed up for it, you had to go confront these people, go drive through the neighborhoods, put police checkpoints, and see what happens. Hey, how you doing? Yeah, you live down here? Yeah, man. Okay. All right. Nice to see you. Get to know them. Drive around. It's just amazing to me. Part of my problem probably is because I lived somewhere else. I lived in a whole other country, so I'm not new to policing. I understand how the system works, and I understand the challenges that they have. But for me, this is the United States. You have way more resources here than many people in other countries don't have. You have access to resources. Just open and ask for it. The state police is just sitting there with all their blue vehicles, just like, we're here. Want some money? The state police will get the money because they will go to the DOJ, and the statistics are so alarming. The state police will get the money and say, here, go do this. This is going to be a concerted effort. The citizens can't do this anymore because they're not listening. Young men are not listening to their family members. Are you hearing me? The people who are committing these violent crimes, they're not listening to their family members. Right? They're not listening. So it makes no sense to say, well, it's a community response problem and we're working through the people in the community. The criminals are not listening to the community. The criminals are listening to the bark of their guns. Amen. Do you get it? That's who the criminals are listening to. They're not listening to me. They're not listening to their grandmothers who are begging them not to pick up a gun. They're not listening to their mamas who are saying, son, I don't want to come visit you in jail. They're not listening to their sisters who are saying, please, bro, please don't do this. They're not even listening to their own children who say, I'd love to grow up and have my daddy walk beside me on graduation. They're listening to the bark of guns. Gang violence is what is causing a lot of this activity. That's not a secret. The mayor even has a liaison, or attempted to have a liaison some years ago. Didn't work very well, did it? Maybe what we need to have, you think the gangs are ever going to put their guns down when they're not going to trust each other to put the guns down? We've all looked at Compton, haven't we? No. So it's going to take what? Policing. So you can have a summit where you bring the leaders of all the gangs together, right? You can bring all their representatives. You bring them all together. You bring all the pastors in the zip codes where crime is most violent, like 4820 die, right? You can bring all of them together. But you know what? You know what? The violence is still going to continue. The violence is still going to continue. The violence is not going to stop. But you know what's going to stop it? The bark of the police, the might and power of the police. That's what will make them back off. Because as bad as anybody is, everybody is bad until the police show up. Everybody, they threaten people, they beat up people, they shoot people because they feel powerful. Because you know what? When the police comes, the police has the power to not just shoot without asking questions, but if they live and survive that, the police is going to lock them up. That's why the police needs to do their job. So, Mr. Mayor, the mayor of the city of Detroit, what's your job, sir? To protect the people, provide the resources for the police to do their jobs. Don't ask the community for any help because that ain't working. If the Detroit City Council is sitting in every day and are not holding the police accountable for the violence that is taking place in every zip code, because if you go to look at it, you can see the violence broken down by zip code. You can see what specific kinds of crimes are available in some zip codes. And we won't even talk about the pedophiles who are coming out of jail, the sex offenders who are coming out and who proliferate in some zip codes because it's easier because they can't live in Oakland County. They can't live in Macomb County. What is the police doing about that? This is Harriet Kemick with Down to Earth. Come back again.